Over the weekend, I came across Oh No, which is a Substack and a collaboration between Adrian Lilly and Olivia Bradley Skill. I don't know much about these two people, but I really enjoyed something they wrote called Oh No, We're Back. And this Substack is a sort of manifesto. Again, my knowledge of them is somewhat limited. I know that they run an anti-podcast podcast, which reminds me a little bit of Richard Turley's anti-fashion magazine, which is very good. I've got a copy behind me. It's delightfully messy. It's really a beautiful piece of art. I think it's sort of funny to create something that is against itself. It's a very postmodern idea to be so sort of like self-referential and ironic. And I think that there's something really useful to that point of view. At any rate, I digress. The main thing I wanted to highlight here is I was so inspired by their manifesto. And as they're in the podcast audio space, they wrote it with this audience in mind. But I actually think it's relevant to a larger audience, not just those who can hear. So they've broken out their manifesto into sort of a call for 5 different things: variety, the quality of not necessarily having to make sense all the time, duration, voices, and mystery. I think there's a little bit of overlap with some of these things, which is interesting. But I wanted to just sort of pause and recognize that I think that this is particularly relevant to viewers, those who interact with graphic design or interactive design, craving the unexpected, recognizing that we humans like weird, annoying, poetic, cartoonish, serious things, a vector of things, that we're tired of this sort of polished, formulaic, algorithmic feed that we're constantly exposed to or fed. Their call to action is that they prefer these rough edges and risks over these sleek, safe productions, which are so clearly aimed at awards sponsors. They're also saying, stop making sense. Forget the story arcs, hooks, and structure. They're over it. Give them sensations, poetics, contradictions, and people screaming. The plot is dead. I think this is interesting. I agree and disagree. I would say a plot is important. It's not always necessary, though. It's a lot like life. When I go out and I run my errands, I do my things, there's not necessarily a provocative story, but there's all sorts of little vignettes and little moments that lack structure. But there is something sensational and poetic about these moments that we experience. And I think creating experiences for people that are sort of like that is actually a good thing, can be a good thing. Duration. This is a big one for me. Not only for, I think it's a little bit more relevant to like videos and audio. However, I think that there's something here. Let the viewers or listeners' attention drift. Let it wander. That's just like a conversation with an old friend. Sometimes our mind wanders. It's important to teach people to learn to listen. And sometimes that requires them to get lost. That's an educational moment in our own minds. Oh, shit, I need to get back on track. I think it's a habit that we're falling out of because it's just so easy to move on to the next thing. But nature and our world around us doesn't move at that speed. So at any rate, doing a voice. Oh, this was interesting. Bring strange narrators, weird accents, breathing, distortion, etc. This reminded me of one of my favorite classes I took, which was by Chris Cohen, with the program School of Song. And he was saying what he does whenever he's writing music is he imagines a voice in his head of a close friend or somebody that he really respects who has really good musical taste. And that voice is a sort of, you could say critic, but really more of a collaborator. And he imagines, what would they think about this line or this measure or this riff? And he sort of listens and lets that voice interrogate what he's just created. And there's a sort of collaboration there. And I think that's a really interesting way of doing it. So that's sort of a voice for your creator inner dialogue, but also externally. I think that there's some interesting prompts there around using voices or creating voices. Mystery. Oh, this is so good. Trust the listener. Trust the viewer. They're not idiots. I think sometimes because of our rapid consumption, we think that people are really dumb or they don't give us enough attention or whatever. And maybe there's some truth to this, but I think it is important to respect the listener and assume that they're intelligent, or the viewer, and assume that they're intelligent and that they're in on it. No need for over-explaining. Leave space for interpretation or misinterpretation and discovery. And feeling something without being told what to feel is the point. And I really appreciated that. I sort of put these in my own words, but I thought that the whole write-up was very good. And if you have the time, click the links. It's a very different experience if you go that way, which is why I did this. But at any rate, I thought this was a refreshing perspective because I think it's something that many of us feel in this moment, but maybe we haven't taken time to put it into words. So thank you to Adrian and also Olivia, who had some input.